the only way that we all can get access to our greatest potential is through positive psychology.
This is, believe it or not, our 5th episode of this series. In case you are new to this program or to this, recording world, my name is Nick Esposito. I'm a senior design principal here at Education Elements. And this particular topic of educator wellness is really why I am still working in education. And I really believe that no matter where you are in the, organization or in your district, you can really impact, the wellness of everybody around you. So that's why I think that this series has been so exciting and inspiring, but also versatile. So I say all of that to introduce Meghan Lawson, who is today's guest for episode 5. So Meghan, I tried to take as much of what I know about you and try to boil it down into a paragraph. So you feel free to expand upon it as we go. But what I love on your website, you call yourself a kindness ambassador. So I'd love for you to expand upon that today. But you love to study, the collaboration and conditions of transformational change, which is what this whole series is about. And the reason that I really wanted you to be on this show is because we're calling it a show. The reason that I wanted you to be here was because while everyone else, that is their job to focus on wellness, you have other things that you're worried about too, but you have the mindset and the lens of, the people around you and how to cultivate that wellness. So I feel like that is a really, unique and valuable perspective. And if you all are interested in checking out Meghan's work, head over to meghanlawson.com. And she currently works in Ohio because, Meghan, you're from Ohio forever, right? You're just a Cincinnati girl through and through.
Through and through, Cincinnati girl. That's right.
Through and through, right? Exactly. So yeah, every time I looked up a different stop on Meghan's journey, it was just her just impacting different places around Cincinnati, which I thought was pretty cool. So anyway, I'm going to turn it over to you, Meghan.
So a big part of what I wanted to talk about today is, how happiness plays a role in our becoming the educator we always wanted to be. And I think the most important work is the work that we do on ourselves as human beings and leaders. Everything else is secondary. This comes from Shawn Achor. You may be familiar with his book, Big Potential. He's written quite a few books, actually. And if you aren't finding that you have time for a book, he has a great TED Talk about the happy secret to better work. But this statistic in particular, I think is very important, that your brain on positive is 31% more productive than it is at negative, neutral, or stressed. So if you think about 31% is no joke. Imagine if you had 31% more time, 31% more money, 31% more sleep, 31%, it's significant. And yet I find that in all of the good data work, the important data work that we should be doing in our school communities, this important data is often not at the table. We often don't know exactly how our students are feeling in school, how our staff are feeling in their work. And it's not fluff. In fact, the only way that we all can get access to our greatest potential is through positive psychology. And so that's why I want to spend some time starting with why it matters so deeply, but then also getting further into what we can do to grow our happiness levels. And so something that Gretchen Rubin would say is that if you loved something when you were 10, you would love it now. So if you can this is assuming, right, that you had a healthy childhood where you could enjoy being 10 and some of the things that come with being 10 years old. But I would invite you to think back, what are the things that 10-year-old you, when life was a little bit more free for you to explore and play and be creative? What are the different things that you enjoyed at that age? We do a nice job of leaning into what our kids' interests are often, and choice and the importance of choice in the classroom as we work to personalize environments for them. It's absolutely essential. And it's essential that what we love is a part of our work in our classrooms too. And I think those two things can coexist. And when we bring our joy and our loves into the classroom, that energy is contagious for our students and can get them then excited about the things that you're going to tap into that they love as you work to grow those skills and attributes in your classroom. So I also just wanted to stop and mention that, it does matter whether or not kids can feel that we're loving our work or enjoying our work if love feels too significant, heavy for you. because it's controversial research on both sides, but I'm really leaning into the research about mirror neurons. And if people mirror back to you the emotions that you bring into the spaces that you serve, there are some researchers that say that that's like not a thing. There's other research that indicates that it's true. And it's been my lived experience that it's true, that I'm more likely to mirror the emotions of other people, like in a space. If they feel really good, I'm starting to feel really good. If they're down, I'm concerned and I'm down. And I want to say, I'm glad that there was a session about toxic positivity, because I don't want to say that we fake it and we don't have real hard conversations or share when we're struggling. It's just shows you, though, the importance of us taking good care of ourselves, whatever that looks like for us, so other people have better access to caring for themselves as well, students and staff alike. And so another example of how I've tried to bring this joy into the work is through viewing my work from a customer service lens, the customer experience. I think sometimes we forget that we're in the customer service industry in schools. And so everyone's a customer, internal people, external, parents, community, staff, students. And so I genuinely enjoy serving others. I enjoy offering people cups of coffee, bringing snacks to the meetings, playing music. And so one point of inspiration for me actually comes from Dan and Chip Heath's book, The Power of Moments. And they share this really profound example, and here's why I think it's profound, of what this could look like, where you take really great care of others and you create a moment. They talk a lot in the book about how people are wired for moments. We remember often moments. That's how our memory strings together. So if we go on a vacation, we don't remember every aspect of the vacation, but we remember big things that went really well or felt special, or little things that felt special and different, or things that did not go so great too, right? You find yourself telling the stories about vacations. And so they gave this great example of the Magic Castle Hotel, which is out by Disneyland in California. Some of you might be familiar with it. You would think that the Magic Castle Hotel, given that it ranks in like the top 5 hotels on TripAdvisor, that it would be super swanky, right? It's going to be competing with all of the really expensive hotels. But the truth is, the Magic Castle Hotel, I think, was a 1950s renovated apartment building that they turned into a hotel. They don't have the fanciest thread count. They don't have any of those kind of thrills. What they do have are little touches where they show people how much they care about them. And one example is the popsicle hotline, where if you're at the pool, there's a cherry red phone, as you can see in the picture. It says popsicle hotline, and you pick it up, and someone on the other line says popsicle hotline, and you place your order for what flavor of popsicle you want, and someone comes out to the pool and delivers your popsicle on a silver tray, with white gloves, and just takes good care of you and enjoy your delicious popsicle. And those are the kinds of things that people find themselves talking about years down the road. It was an unexpected thrill and delight. And so I want to also point out that a lot of the happiness research indicates that people get more as far as access to the good stuff in their brains when it's an unexpected thrill and delight. So you get access to more dopamine, right? Dopamine actually has the power to turn on all of the learning centers of the brain. So it's another reason why it matters if you find yourself in a positive space, and if you can bring your students into a positive space. Again, like, we really should be talking about this more in schools if it has that kind of power, but you can amplify that power by also sometimes creating moments of thrill and delight and surprise. I think we do a nice job in our schools of creating routines and things that people can rely on, which is important for our emotional capacity when we show up at work every day, and our students show up, to know, especially when they have a lot of unknowns going on in their world, that they're like things that they can count on, that they'll experience in school. But I also don't want to minimize. It's a yes, and it's important that there are things that are fun and unexpected that make the day feel different as well. And sometimes I think it's easy to overlook that. And I believe one of my favorite quotes from that book is, "Beware of the soul-sucking force of reasonableness." Sometimes we're super reasonable about what makes sense, what needs, so, sometimes it's okay to be a little unreasonable with what's going to be fun. And I like this example of the Magic Castle Hotel because it's not one that costs a lot of money. I think we can find some really great ways to thrill and delight, whether it's the fun music you play in your class, whether you decide to take the class outside for the reading for the day, or you surprise your staff with something little that you want to have happen in the staff meeting, a fun game or what have you, to ensure that people have a way to feel that dopamine and that rush that doesn't come from the day to day. So in order to get ourselves into this really playful space, and in order to be in that place of play and positivity as best we can, we're human beings, so we're going to have hard days. I just want to note that perfection is the enemy of progress. So I think sometimes we think, oh, I want to do that, but I can't quite do it at the level I want to do it. Sometimes we make really unreasonable decisions about what progress should look like for us. And so we get discouraged because we're not where we want to be in our work, or it didn't go exactly how we wanted it to go. And so like, why should I try? I just got to stick to the things that I know that are going to work. And I'm going to start thinking smaller again. And so I just want to point out how critical it is that we really try to get out of that mindset, because the brain wants what it experiences on a consistent basis. So if you are consistently miserable, or you're consistently having lunch with people who are complaining about students or complaining about their work, your brain's going to continue to want that, even though it knows the thing that it's receiving might not be good. It still wants that routine. And so I think that's another reason why it's really critical that we break out of some of our routines, or we take a step back and look at how we feel. How do we feel when we leave certain experiences or certain people? I'm learning that there's certain people that are good for me only in doses. There's certain people that aren't actually very good for me. And so I, don't need to go out of my way unless I have to spend time with certain people. I mean, taking care of ourselves in those kinds of ways really matters. And what's really hard sometimes in our work is there are certain people that we just are placed with, and like we are going to spend a lot of time with them. And so what does that look like? How do you give yourself some breaks, or some other places where you go find the person that you feel lighter after talking to them, or you feel more energized, or you feel inspired? Because that's going to give you more access to that 31% that I was referencing at the beginning. And in particular, the person we spend the most time with is ourselves. The average person hears 20,000 to 30,000 words in a day. I can only imagine the amount of words that I'm saying to myself in a day. And I think we have learned to be critical consumers of things like this presentation, things that other people say in meetings, things that we see in the media. We know that critical thinking and critical consumption is important. I think what we sometimes fail to realize is how to be a critical consumer of our own thinking. And because you got that running dialogue, and it's very easy to think like, well, because I think that, it's true. But it's probably why I'm drawn to so many people who have work like Brene Brown, who say things, like I need to realize that the story I'm telling myself, like you kind of talk back to or question, like, why do I think that's true? Is that true? What's something different that I want to say or believe about this, because this is not serving me right now. And so I think it's just really important for me. I engage in a writing process every week, and I'm blogging, and it allows me to crawl inside my thinking from the week and ask myself, okay, what do I think about that? What do I believe about that? How is this impacting me? Do I want it to impact me in that way? Where a lot of us are doing that kind of thing, like when we're driving home from work, we're driving to work, we're preparing for that meeting. I just think it's really important that we not lose sight of the fact that you're consuming a lot of thinking, but not all of it is true or productive. And sometimes we're getting in our own way of showing up in the ways that we want to show up for ourselves and other people. So we are not pizza. Okay, we cannot make everyone happy. So I think naming that, and then naming some strategies for going back to that perfectionism piece, releasing ourselves from the pressure of being everything to everyone, doing everything perfectly, doing everything, period, so that we can get into that playful space and be in the moment with people, be more present and be more positive, is absolutely critical. And so I just wanted to make sure I got to some strategies for how we can avoid being pizza. While it's delicious, it's, we can't compete. We just can't. And so a couple of things that I wanted to point out. I think it's pretty toxic that we often grew up with that phrase that we have to give 110%. First of all, we all know that that's actually impossible. There is no 110%. But I think sadly, we mean well, but we often bring that into our school spaces too. Like, we're going to give it our all. We're going to give it our all the time. We're going to give it our all in all the things. That is absolutely not humanly possible. Not to mention, not everything is worth 110% of our time and attention. That work that I did on class rank Val-Sal, weighted grades, that was worth, because I saw what those kids had to say about our experience in our school. That was worth 100%. But in order for me to give 100% to that, I had to not give 100% to some other things. I think, again, just relieving ourselves of some of the pressures. And so what are some ways that might look like for us? I go home on time every day. I don't judge other people when they leave at their contracted time. Are you getting your work done? Great. Like, isn't that all that matters? That like we are getting our work done and we're doing a great job every day. In our particular district, we're working really hard on kind of relieving ourselves of the pressure of like measuring our self-worth by our hard work and our hours put in. There's sort of been like a history of a culture in our district where our teachers really measured their success by how hard they were working and how long they were working. People coming in on the weekends to do their lesson plans and make their copies. I think we need to really take a look at healthy boundaries. And so for me, I know that in order for me to leave on time, I have to have an appointment every day at 4:30 at the gym where I go work out with a trainer. Like, that's my accountability. Like, I have to leave at 4. I won't be there on time. And you know what? Like, often after that workout, I feel energized and then I want to do more work. And that's part of my life balance. Like, that might not work for someone else, but that's working for me. I'm working on learning. I'm saying all this like working on. I'm not like some expert that's totally like, got my life perfectly integrated and showing up positively every day. These are just some things I'm working on. So I'm working on saying no to things so I can say yes to the things that really matter. So I'm also practicing saying that's not a priority for me. Because if I say that's not a priority for me, and then I like take a step back and look at how that sounds and how that feels, it's indication for me about whether or not, okay, but do I think I need it to be a priority? Because in which case, like, something else might not be a priority that I thought once was. So I'm just tinkering with that language a little bit. Like, that's not a priority for me right now. And then the last one is I'm really working on like giving myself space from email. The emails keep coming and they don't stop coming, like all day long. And I think that, a lot of us didn't get into this profession to be email responders. And if we respond instantaneously to every email we receive, we're kind of sending the message that the only thing that we're really passionate about, or that's a priority for us, is that we sit around and wait for people to send us emails so that we respond right away. Like, we're just sitting around waiting to respond to emails. It's like our job. And we all know that that's like not the case. There's a lot of other things going on. In fact, the people who are in front of us in this moment, like you with me right now, you're the most important thing right now. My email doesn't matter right now. And often if there's an emergency, it doesn't come to me via an email. So I'm working really hard on just giving myself some space from email, having some planned times in the day when I'll attend to it. And then responding whenever I respond. And another gift I've given myself that I don't have noted here is that if someone comes to me with high emotion in an email, that's an indication to me that I need to pick up the phone and make a call. Or I need to go walk and see that person in person, because when emotions run high, it is so easy to misinterpret tone. And the amount of time I would spend perfecting that email to try to get that tone just right, I think it would have gone a lot better and a lot faster had we actually been humans connecting with each other. So those are just a few things that I'm working on to release myself of the pressure of trying to give 100%, be everything to everybody, because we can't be playful and positive and creative if we're living under unreasonable expectations for ourselves and others. So I want to just bring it to a close with a couple of thoughts. I love this from the Dalai Lama, who says, if you think you're too small to make a difference, you haven't spent the night with a mosquito. I mean, nobody wants to spend the night with a mosquito. And so, amen. Yes. So I just think it's really easy for us to think, well, I'm just me. Like, what can I do for my little corner in my school or my district? But if we all take really great care of our little corner, all of those people go out and affect other people. I mean, just imagine if everybody did their best to show up as their best selves as best they can every day. Think about how the world would change. And so I just want to encourage us that there's no move too small to take good care of ourselves or take care of other people. I think small moves are the way that we make a big impact. So here's some example of just how much those small moves mattered. A day is 14 minutes. 1% of a day is 14 minutes. This actually comes from A Billion Hours of Good, a book by Chris Field. 14 minutes isn't actually that long, but I can kill 14 minutes like no one's business on Instagram. Like, poof, it's gone. Or like I used to be really into Pinterest. Like a Pinterest minute is like an hour easily. And so his theory is that if we all work to just get that 1% better in a day, think about how things would change. In fact, if every teacher and staff member in your school was focused on something that they wanted to get better at, and they get that 1% better in a school year, and then you add up everybody's 1%, that's an insane amount of percentages. Our workday, for example, like we have 4.5 minutes is 1% of a 7.5-hour workday. And so 4.5 minutes is doable. Like, what's something small? Like, it doesn't matter, but small with great intentionality and consistency. An example of that would be, there's a lot of research about the importance of greeting students at the door every day in the classroom. Okay, that probably like maybe adds up to a little over 4.5 minutes, but you factor in sometimes you got to run to the restroom or grab your copies off the copier or what have you. There's research that's showing that greeting students at the door raises students' time to task in the classroom by 20%. There's also research that shows that it will decrease discipline issues by 9%. And it's nothing that anyone has to plan for. It's about like what you do, what you make the decision to do, and that you do consistently. Loving on those kids or staff members, right? Smiling at staff members, using people's names, like saying their name, remembering little things about them, and following up. That little bit of 1%, it matters in a big way. In our class periods, 30 seconds is 1% of a 50-minute class period. So, if you had a 30-second, like every day, I'm gonna like really connect with this particular kid for 30 seconds today, and then I'm gonna make sure tomorrow I connect with another one. That's really gonna add up, and it's gonna make a profound impact. So, and then lastly, I'm really into the hope and engagement research from Battelle for Kids, just how much hope matters in the classroom and in our schools. It turns out hope is a more robust indicator of future success more than any other academic measure, more than GPA, more than ACT score, SAT score, grades. Hope is absolutely essential. We have to believe that tomorrow will be better and that we have the skills to make tomorrow better. That's what hope is. And we have students who are, and maybe staff too, who are showing up in ways that sometimes look like laziness, but really it's hopelessness. And so how do we ensure that people believe that tomorrow can be better today and that I'm empowered with the skills needed to make tomorrow better? And students who lack hope, they can actually be lent hope by their teachers, but teachers can't give students something that they don't have themselves. And so pouring into, I think that's why I just want to pause for a second and say, I've really tried to shift my thinking. I'm not just student-centered and student-focused. I'm also staff-focused. Both matter. It matters if our kids are okay and we're taking good care of our kids, and it matters if we're taking good care of our staff. Teachers can't take great care of students if we aren't taking great care of them. And so I think that I really take seriously the role that we have in caring for the adults too. So a couple ways that we might be able to grow hope and happiness in the classroom, just kind of couching all that together under positive psychology. We can practice being human in front of our students and honor their humanity too. We can practice talking about things that we're struggling with and also like what we're doing in response to that struggle. We can model constructive ways of responding to failure and mistakes. We can say we're sorry when we're wrong and show what we're going to do different the next time. I think people in our schools today need less shiny, perfect people and more people who are willing to be deeply human with others. We can be choosy about what constructive criticism we give. There's a lot out there about, I've heard varying versions of the 6, 7 positives to every one criticism. I feel like I want to go back to my high school English classes that I taught early in my career and apologize for every single thing that I made sure that I marked wrong on that paper. I was doing it because I was trying to prove to them, look, I read every word that you wrote, because I think we all got papers growing up that was like, I don't know if the teacher read that. that was more about me, and what they thought of me, and not so much about what they needed. And so I think, there's also research from Patel for Kids that says that people need to hear a positive about their work every 7 days to feel good in the work. And I don't know that a lot of people are getting that, because I think we're often so focused on things that aren't going right. And then finally, if we could just think less in lessons and units and more in experiences and conditions, how do we want people to feel when they leave this experience? How do we want them to feel when we leave that staff meeting? How do we want them to feel when we leave that professional development? How do we want kids to feel when they leave this lesson or this hard conversation? And actually back plan from there, because it matters how we feel. They're not going to get access to their 31% more potential if they're not feeling good, feeling well, feeling seen and known in that experience. They're not going to be able to get to the critical skills that we're trying to teach them. And I just want to encourage you to continue to be the change that you wish to see in your school and in this world. And I never want to miss an opportunity to thank educators for the incredible work that you do every single day. You matter, your work matters, your words matter. Keep showing up. We need you. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Meghan, so much. Every question that I wrote down, you ended up answering like a slide later. So,
okay.
But I guess the whole idea of what you were talking about kept coming up in like ing words, right? Like the idea of this is practicing, or even like when you were talking about yourself, you're like, I'm trying this, or I'm working on this. I feel like that's the only way to go, because a lot of some of the things, like, well, I'm totally on board. Obviously, I align with you very much on everything you said, but it's not easy for everybody, right? Like weaning ourselves off of perfectionism is tough. Like, how do we go about doing that? Like helping others wean themselves off of perfectionism when the world around us is so like, metrics driven,
That's a great question. I think everybody probably has a different process for paying attention to how they're feeling or what they're thinking. But I think the first step is to actually acknowledge that we have thoughts and feelings, and that we need to name what they are, and then try to uncover why things are the way they are with how we're feeling, and then create spaces, right, where proximity matters. So like the more I spend time with you or around you, the more I trust you, the more you trust me. So the more we can spend consistent time around other people at work, which is really tricky probably actually, Nick, for like remote work, but maybe like Zoom calls are considered proximity. But like if I spend time in teachers' classrooms consistently, they start to feel like I know them, I feel like they know me. And then we start to, because we feel like we know each other and trust each other and see the good in each other, can start to actually have more meaningful dialogue about how certain things are impacting us and what that makes us think about what we need moving forward. So maybe I'm like a Pollyanna, but I really think that like one of the things that can change the world is simply having good conversations with other people. I really believe that.
I love that. Kay Mooney, did you have a question? I feel like you're like itching to go with something.
Well, my math coach and I are here, and I'm listening a lot lately on the care, having self-care and the balance, and we're kind of working on some vision work 2030 for our district, and we're kind of rethinking what is the profile of a teacher. We're talking a lot about. I'm loving what you said about the finding our self-worth wrapped up in all the hard work that we do and having boundaries and so on. And one of the things that we, through personalized learning, we hear often is fail, be okay to fail. Like, don't worry about that fear, identify, so-and-so. I like your fear, fear setting experience. One of the things that I started to see over the last year or two is that the teacher kind of getting a little bit more like nails on the chalkboard. Don't keep telling me to fail. Like I'm wanting to hear your thoughts, because we're trying to find a different way in which to say, take the risk. We'll be there to help you. The struggle, productive struggle, but it's like fail and be okay to fail. We don't need to be perfectionism, but what you have historically are teachers that are rule followers, that really want to see achievement in themselves, value that, think that that is their worth. So again, what is a better way to say fail and be okay with it?
That is such a great question. I'm working on actually asking questions more instead of responding with a statement. So like, tell me more about that. How do you know that to be true? And then what, tell me more about like what could go wrong here, and then what would happen, and then what would happen, and then what would happen, until you get to the root cause of like the worst fear. And then together kind of questioning whether or not that's a real reality of what could or could not happen. Like in my case with what my job coach did for me, like she actually didn't say like, you got this, like it's okay to, which is what I probably would say, like it's okay to fail, like that's how we all talk about the work, like but I learned from her saying like, okay, and then what happens, tell me more, or how do you know that? And sometimes I think getting the other person to own where things are going or where they could end up, and then letting them come to terms with it. Sorry, I'm in a school. That would, I think, allows people to take more ownership then over the feeling and also the possible outcome. I don't know. That's something I'm working on. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
Yeah. You mentioned the conversations, and my coach is like, how do you do it in a PLC process? Like you're individually working on something, but collectively you want that responsibility, Hattie's work, collective responsibility, that high impact, that high effect size, teacher efficacy. And when you're trying something new all the time, and you're never really arriving, now it's continuous improvement, but you're not really in your mind arriving to that sweet spot of this is success, so we do a lot of leveraging that success, naming it, ensuring that we all feel good about it. But we're just still wondering, you talk about conversations, but the number one thing a teacher team will say is it's so hard to have difficult conversations with my peers. Like as a supervisor, I've learned through cognitive coaching and then being at all types of ways to have a difficult conversations. So again, that's another thing that teachers bottle that up because they're not having those crucial conversations. Do you see that too?
Right. Oh my gosh, yeah. Artificial harmony is like rampant in schools, right? Like we all want to feel good. We all want other people to feel good. Like we don't want to be the one that says that kind of peacemaking. We all keep the peace. It's a good meeting if like nobody got mad is like a lot of times, what we think. So I'm with you. I just want to name that. I love that you make space for celebrating the positive. That's another strategy I didn't get into today, but like acknowledging what's going really well is really important. And in fact, recently I saw something that said, often when people are upset about change, reminding them of what's not changing and what's going well actually helps stabilize them, because the rate of change cannot exceed the rate of our community's readiness. So I guess something I would wonder about is just that we're often asking ourselves is how do we make sure that we, because we've got this like desire to move forward, and we have lots of achievement gap in our district, like that we're looking to close and just raise the achievement for all, I should say. So something that we're talking about is like, what thing is so worthy that we're going to get uncomfortable about it, and we're going to push forward on it a little bit, that we think they're ready for, and what kinds of things are we not going to like worry so much about right now, and where is like the sweet spot between those two things that we're meeting about the readiness. I don't know.
Well, thank you, Meghan, so much. I don't want to cut you off. This is a great conversation, but I know that people are going to have to jump to their next thing. But once again, thank you all for joining us. Meghan, it was great seeing you as always, and we'll talk to you guys all very soon.
Oh, it was awesome. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.